Everyone, and welcome to Retire with Clarity. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, and my guest today is John Lawton and Stewart Fields of Open Air Advisors. Welcome back to the show, friends.
Good to see you, Paul.
Good to see you. How you guys doing?
Hey, not bad. Love being here. Good to see you.
Yes. It's good to be seen, that's for sure. Yeah. It beats the alternative, I always say.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, today we're going to get into different things in retirement, and primarily we're going to talk about the different phases in retirement, Stewart. What are they, and why should folks be aware of them?
Yeah, it's really important to, one, distinguish, basically, that there is three phases. One of last week's episodes was one of my favorite episodes because, John was talking about, plans not changing from when you're 30 years old to when you're 60 or 70 years old. Yeah. And it's almost like, if you're getting ready for a football game, there's 4 quarters in a football game.
Yeah, good analogy.
Right before you kick off, you've done your research, you know what it takes. But let's say that research has paid off. Your game plan's worked. As you approach the second, the third, the fourth quarter, you're changing.
Right.
In the fourth quarter, you're not necessarily throwing the ball as much as you did in the first quarter. And that's the same thing when it comes to investment or retirement planning. That first phase is called your accumulation phase, and that's basically between that first paycheck, that first job you got, it's about 45 years old. And at this point in your game, volatility's fine, risk is fine. You can lose a lot, you can gain a lot because it's going to be decades until you need that money.
Right.
And then once you reach about 45 to about 55 years old, I kind of call that the preservation phase. You're like, oh boy, retirement got here quicker than I thought.
Right.
But I need to save more, but I can't go backwards nearly as far as I did when I was 35.
Exactly.
And now, a lot of people that we work with, 55 and older, they're in that kind of distribution or that pre-retirement phase. And that's a really difficult phase to be in. I think the accumulation is one of the easiest phases because you don't need that money for a while so you can get away with mistakes.
Sure.
But now this distribution phase is really tough because of the low interest rate environment. If you combine distributions with market losses, it almost makes it really hard to get back to even. So the biggest pitfall I see is, like you mentioned last week, is people coming in and really their portfolio was still in that accumulation phase. So, these next 5 to 10 years away, like are so sensitive because if you lose 30% in the market like it did last year, and that happens a couple years in a row like it did in the early 2000s, and you add a 5% distribution per year, you're not getting back to even.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you're talking with the right people who can make the adjustments so if the market does go to a long-term recession, that you have an income that's not going to really ruin your principal, down the road. So it's important to know the three phases and to understand it takes a different game plan at each phase going back to that football game.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, and a lot of us, March last year was scary. And it was scary for a lot of us, especially if you didn't have that right plan in place and you didn't have those right tools, and you did, especially if you're close to retirement, and you did take that 30% loss like Stewart's saying. And I think, that's what's so hard today as we're talking to clients and as we're bringing in prospects and we're doing these Clearpath retirement guides. You took the 30% loss, but you recovered so quickly, and that's
what didn't happen. What if the recovery doesn't come as quickly as it did, last year?
I will tell you, I remember 2008, and if you remember 2008, Paul,
don't remind me.
I was working for one of those big box banks that we talk about. I was working for one of and I covered both Dallas and Houston, but I was primarily there in Dallas. And I remember sitting there. It took. Number one, the market dropped about 55% during that 1 year. It started to recover through the end of the year. I think overall it was just around 40% down for the year. If you lose 50% and you make 50%, are you back to even?
No, you're not.
What does it take? It takes 100% to get back to zero. So with folks, especially as they're getting closer to retirement, you can't handle a 50% drop. You just can't do it. If you don't change those tools, if you don't change that game plan, you're at risk for that happening. Yeah. And that's going to change the lifestyle you're going to have in retirement. It's going to change that lifestyle. That in 2008, I think it took, it was right at 7 years. If you were at the beginning, 2008 happened, it took 7 years for your portfolio to recover. Do you have that amount of time? Do you have that amount of cash reserves? Because the worst thing you could do is sell something that's lost in value. Just like Stewart said, when we're in that accumulation phase, that volatility, that up and down in the market, especially when you're putting money towards that account, that helps your account. It's called dollar cost averaging. That actually improves the percentage in your portfolio. It improves the return of your portfolio. It works exactly opposite when you're distributing the asset. It works exactly opposite when you're taking an income. That volatility, if not controlled, will kill the portfolio.
For sure. I mean, we had a 10-year period in time in the early 2000s, over 10 years. They call it the lost decade. And what they meant by that, if you've heard that term, the market returned 0% over that 10-year period.
Ouch.
And could you imagine, your average retirement's 20 years, half of those years, you made no money, yet you probably were taking some distributions. So really, we can help you basically shift your portfolio. So if that does happen, and those 10 years or those 5 years or whatever it is, you retire at the wrong time, that you're not going to be really harmed by basically what's called the sequence of returns. So making sure that your portfolio is shifted in a way that if the market doesn't do like it did the last 10 years, which is almost the best bull run we've ever seen, can we do this 10 more years?
Right.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
So it's really important to make sure that your portfolio is in tune with probably not what happened the last 10 years, but what happens the next 10 years.
Yeah. You guys brought up an incredible point. You're talking about just getting the psychological thought process down and understanding that you got to shift gears. You've got to change that plan. The fourth quarter is very different than the first quarter. You've done accumulation for 20, 30 years. I'm with you. I get it. You kind of become a habit, and we're all creatures of habit. But when you get into retirement, now you got to really think about preserving, because what is the number one thing you exchanged to get to where you are? And that's the time.
Absolutely.
The time you don't get back. Those 20, 30 years don't come back. And you don't want to spend another 20, 30 years starting over. And that's what you're talking about, right, guys? Making sure our thoughts are more towards preserving what we've built, right?
Exactly.
You said exactly right.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Fantastic. So listen, today I understand you have an offer for the viewers if they reach out and call you. Would you mind sharing that with everybody out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, what we're offering today is called the Clearpath Retirement Guide. Basically, what we're going to do is go through your existing portfolio, understand your personal situation, understand your risk, and basically pull out all of the different risk fees, basically the makeup of your existing accounts today. We're going to put together a Social Security and an income plan for you. And finally, what we're going to do is help you reduce taxes in your retirement plan. We'll do all of that at no cost to you. It's a complimentary plan. Just call the number 844-333-6059. We'd love to be able to put those plans together for you today. Again, that number is 844-333-6059.
Good stuff. And you're probably wondering, why should I call? Why do I call? What's the point? You're the point. You've paid your dues. You've saved the money. You've accumulated. It's grown. Now what? How do you make sure that your plan yesterday is going to be the right plan for tomorrow if you don't change it? Maybe you haven't been asked. When was the last time it was reviewed? If you got all these questions, hey, I get it. I got those questions. That's why I'm here. But this show is about what you do, the action that you take, because you're in charge. This is your pension. 844-333-6059. Get your complimentary review with John, Stewart, and the team. They're there working for you. Call them today. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back, everybody, to Retire with Clarity. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, and my co-host today, John Lawton and Stewart Fields of Open Air Advisors. I slow that down when I say that, guys, because I can stumble through words.
Yes, yes. And Paul, real quick before last segment, we were talking about something that really caught my attention. I just had to share this. Going back to the stages of retirement planning, I had a client come to me here recently, and she was very smart. She was very intelligent. She knew that what she was doing, it'd been a while since she made a change. So she goes, Stewart, can you look at this portfolio? Can you look at the risk? Last March made me kind of scared. Can you look at the risk and make sure that if this happens again, or if it happens again and we don't recover as fast, that I'll be okay? And she said something in that meeting that really caught my attention. And the reason why is because I hear this all the time. And I heard this myself growing up. I heard my mom telling me this when I grew up, when I was asking her about where do I save my first paycheck. And that piece of advice was when you retire, that you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. And really, so she was underneath the impression of why would I pay taxes now versus later when I'll be in a lower tax bracket.
Right.
And that's kind of a myth for most people, especially for the people that were good savers and lived below their means and basically saved a lot of 401ks or IRAs. They're the people that are going to be impacted the most. And I kind of call it my tax roller coaster. And it kind of goes basically, you start basically at the top of the roller coaster in your highest earning years. And you're getting paid, you got your W-2, your 1099. And then when you retire, you kind of swoop back down, especially in the years that you don't take Social Security. And then when you reach your 70s, 80s, and 90s, especially in RMD age, you kind of go right back up and you kind of skyrocket into your higher tax years. You combine that with taxes going up as a country, you're kind of getting hit hard in two different ways. So what we were able to do was what I call income smoothing. So John and I are both certified financial planners, and we spend a lot of time on this, and it's a concept called income smoothing. And making sure that you don't have that roller coaster ramp at the end. So she goes, well, how are some ways that you can prevent this? Well, the hottest topic I think we both deal right now are Roth conversions. Whether or not should you do a conversion? Are they helpful? Are they benefit? Are they going away? So this is a really good time, I would say, with we're in the third lowest tax rate we've been in almost 100 years. And if I asked a question, which way taxes are going to go? Up or down, guys?
I mean, they have to go. I mean, that's the only way the government can generate income, right?
That's right.
Is to tax us. But can I ask you a question? Because you got me curious, right? And hopefully they caught it out there. But, okay, this Roth Conversions thing, what are you talking about? What is it? I mean, is this that Roth contribution thing that you set up initially? Because don't you have to be under a certain income to qualify for that? Or
No, you bring up a really great point. I get this question a lot. Contribution versus conversion. For a contribution, you're exactly right. There's limits. There's a limit to the amount that you can do on an annual basis. There's an income requirement you have to be below. That's a contribution. That's a Roth contribution. Difference is a Roth conversion. And basically what we're doing there is we're taking your traditional IRA and we're deciding to take a portion of it and go ahead and pay the taxes on it. Now, there's a couple of things that we can do to maximize the benefit from that Roth conversion. But basically what we do, we take that portion of your traditional IRA, we pay the taxes, now it's in a Roth. Now it's going to grow tax deferred and the money comes out tax free. So once you've done the conversion and you've paid the money on that, paid the taxes on that portion of your assets, you'll never pay taxes on that money again.
Whoa. Let me get this straight.
It can grow as much as it, it can grow as big as it can be. In fact, what was the Peter Thiel, where he had the biggest Roth because he had it in some stock that was very aggressive. He had it for a number of years and it grew to be the biggest Roth ever. And now he's going to be able to pull all of that money out tax-free.
Wow. So because you prepaid the taxes when they were lower, that grew and you got to withdraw that free, tax-free, those gains?
That's right.
For sure.
That's incredible.
And that actually, and going back to, should you do it? And that really is a question that needs to be answered by probably, a really good planner who's focusing on taxes, not just taxes now, but taxes in 5, 10, 15 years. But let's say the answer is yes, that you should do them. Here's one thing that's often overlooked, is when should you do the conversion through the calendar year?
That's right. Good point.
And so I like to play a game with people.
Okay.
And so we do educational events across the Metroplex,
right.
South Lake, Grapevine, Rockwall, Dallas, Plano, everywhere. And really, here's a game I play with everyone who comes out. I give everybody a fake $100,000. And I say, here's the bad news. This $100,000 is pre-tax. We're going to have to pay taxes on this $100,000 one day. The game is who can pay the least amount of taxes. This kind of goes back into the Roth conversions. So when should you do it? Well, you should probably do it when the market's down. So most of the time, that $100,000 is invested. Let's go back to last March. The market went down 30%. So bear with me, this $100,000 is now $70,000. Would you prefer to pay taxes on 100 or 70?
Definitely the 70.
Definitely 70. So now let's go ahead and pay the taxes on 70. But look what happened since last March. The market's literally doubled.
Yeah.
So now that 70,000 is now 140,000. So you just got $70,000 of gains. Basically, you paid yourself money right back, that tax money you just paid out. So it's not only if you should do them, but when during the year should you do them.
That's right.
Too many times people wait till Christmas time, December, to do that conversion.
Really?
And you're at the begging mercy of whatever the market is at the time. So again, first consider yourself, do you do the conversion? And if so, make sure you are maximizing January through December when to do that conversion. You used to be able to undo them and pick the right time to do them, no longer. So you really want to be more specific when you do that conversion throughout the calendar year.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking about it, and while you were talking about it, one of the games, that's a game that you play. Another game that I play is, if you've got traditional IRA, let's say you got $100,000 in traditional IRA, and I'll ask you, Paul,
Yeah.
you got $100,000, I got one bucket of money, it's in a traditional IRA. I got another bucket that's in a Roth IRA. Which one has more money in it?
Oh, boy. I feel like it's a trick question. I'm going to say the Roth because we're talking about Roth.
And you're 100% right, because you own 100% of that Roth.
Right.
In the traditional IRA, do you own 100%, or are there taxes built into that Roth?
Yeah, that's a great point, because you're saying that's already committed to Uncle Sam.
That's right. You don't own that full traditional IRA because there are taxes built in. If you're looking at contributing to a plan right now, if you're contributing to the Roth, yes, it's not. There are benefits to the traditional IRA. There are benefits to your traditional 401k. It does lower your AGI. It does reduce taxes today. But the problem that a lot of people are not thinking about, or not, if they don't do a full plan, and if you're trying to do it on your own, I don't know how you do it. I really don't.
Yeah.
But if you go through our planning software, if you go through our process, you'll see what makes the most sense. Does it make more sense to have money in the traditional IRA, or does it make sense to start converting some of that money over to this Roth? Again, Stewart's talking about that smoothing. If we're in a low tax rate environment today, we're in the third lowest. We know if nothing happens, taxes will go up in 2025. So we have a time period now where we know we're in a low tax rate environment. Should we then take advantage of that and maybe start doing some of those conversions? Remember, in the conversion, there's no income limit. You can make as much, you could be making $1 million a year. There's no limit to the amount that you can do. Once you do that conversion, as of laws right now, and I can't tell you how laws are going to change, I don't have a crystal ball, but you'll never pay taxes on that money again, as laws are written today. It could reduce your Social Security tax. We haven't even talked about Social Security taxes.
Yeah.
But if we have income coming from that Roth, there's no taxes on, you could reduce the amount of taxes that you're paying on your Social Security there as well.
Yeah, we're going to go to break here in a second, but I wanted to clear something up for me and my friends out there in the Dallas area. You said AGI. I'm assuming you mean adjusted gross income?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Your income for the year. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I just want to clarify that for everybody so we're all on the same page. It's fantastic. Listen, guys, would you do me a favor, remind everybody out there, if they call in today, what you're offering?
Yeah, absolutely. So while we're on the subject, Roth conversions. This is one of the hottest topics out there. We talked about it for about 5 minutes. We're probably going to come back and kind of touch more on it. But should you do a conversion or not? Does it save you money in taxes? How does it help you? Where does your money come from? And really reduce those taxes, because like we were talking about, sometimes without proper planning, your highest tax years will be in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. And if taxes go up, you could be really impacted. So how much, you don't really know until you get this report. So please give us a call. We've got 5 offices around the Metroplex, so please let us help you. Call our number below, 844-333-6059.
And again, that's completely complimentary. I've seen consultations cost upwards of $1,500 for sessions like these, right, fellas? And that's the bottom line. It's an investment in you. It's time and energy that goes into you to get to know you and what your goals are. You know, many of you asked me, you know, Paul, what do the wealthy people do to avoid these different tax pitfalls? How do they, you know what they do? They diligently plan. That's what they do. They have a strategy and they revisit that strategy. They adjust it, right? They're always asking questions. This is the business of your retirement. You can't afford to be passive. This doesn't wait for tomorrow. It happens now, right? Pick up the phone. Get your complimentary review, 844-333-6059. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back, everybody, to Retire with Clarity. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt. It's been an honor to be with you today. Thank you for being with us. My co-hosts have been John Lawton and Stewart Fields of Open Air Advisors. Guys, we've been talking a lot about Roth IRAs and Roth Conversions in the last segment. But let me ask you this question. How does somebody get the most out of a Roth conversion?
You know what? There's a story I like to say that almost kind of the first time I meet somebody, I explain the financial planning process. Okay. And I kind of relate it to doing a Rubik's Cube. And so the first time anybody was handed a Rubik's Cube, they tried to do basically one side at a time. They tried to do the whites, and then, oh, I got the whites, and they went to the reds.
That's me.
Yeah,
I've never gotten past that, Stewart. I don't know how you do it.
Exactly.
We can talk about this after the show.
Okay, good.
But
we're good.
That's the wrong way to do it, because you notice when you're working on that second side, it's messing up what you just did.
Totally.
And that's the same thing with Social Security planning and Roth conversions in particular. So feeding off what we were just talking about, let's say you're a good candidate, you're 66, 67 years old, or any age really, and you want to do conversions. But then you go say, well, the famous question we get all the time is, when do I take Social Security? Well, you know, it kind of depends on what are you doing in other parts of your retirement plan. Let's say that we want you to do a conversion of $40,000 because it keeps you in that lower tax bracket. And we don't want to bump up to a higher, but yet you go behind the scenes and turn on Social Security between you and your spouse, which is 40 grand. Guess what it just did? It basically filled in that low tax bracket and made the Roth conversion less effective. So there's just a couple particular scenarios where you have to look at the other pieces of the puzzle to maximize how you should do a Roth conversion. And it's really interesting when you have someone who looks at it from different angles and say, well, you've got capital gains taxes, you've got Social Security, and you got pension, and so you can't really just have horse blinders when you focus on not just Roth conversions, but really anything. So make sure you're working with someone who's going to take that holistic, comprehensive approach to really make sure you maximize the work and effort you're putting in to do that conversion in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And just thinking about it when we were at break, I was on our website we have different articles that we've written, and Stewart's got a lot of articles on there. I write things on a regular basis, and one that we wrote here recently was about how do you get the most out of your Roth conversion? Just really practical things. So number one, just like Stewart's saying, fill up the tax bracket that you're in. That's the first step. When you're looking at it, if you're going to try to do it on your own, feel free to call us. We'll build the plan for you. And again, if you're in the DFW Metroplex and you want to give us a call, do that. Take the time and do it, because we'll build that plan for you and we'll do it at no cost. But the first step is, let's look at the tax bracket you're in and let's just fill up that tax bracket. Next, if you're looking to pay the taxes, pay them from outside the traditional IRA. That will maximize the benefit of that Roth once it goes over that. That will maximize the benefit of that Roth conversion. Lastly, if you can, just like Stewart said, if the market's down a little bit, and I don't have a crystal ball, I can't tell you, when the market's going down, if it's going to keep going down, but try to optimize that. If the market's down a little bit, that's a great time. So if you know you're going to be doing it, don't be doing it in November or December, because then you're just locked into whatever's happened in the market. Look through the year, decide that you're going to do it early, decide that you need to do it earlier in the year. That way you've got the year to plan. And that way, if there is, we usually have, a 7% correction every year?
Yeah, over 90% of the time, I believe. So you may not get that 30% correction, but you get that 7-10% pullback. You just don't know when the year comes, to John's point. No crystal ball, but when that happens, good time to basically, if you got a good advisor, they're going to call you and say, hey, remember we talked about conversions last year? This is the time to do it.
Yeah,
That's exactly
really.
right.
That's good. That gives that reminder call, right?
Exactly right.
I was going to ask you this question, because I get this from a lot of folks. When is a good time, or how often should somebody be engaged in reviewing their current plan? Let's assume someone's got one. How often should they visit it?
I mean, with the way things have been, with taxes, with interest rate, we're in a historically low interest rate environment. With the market doing what it did last year, I would say once a year you need to be revisiting that plan. If you're getting close to retirement and you have a lifestyle that you have in mind, you have a picture of what you want, you need to be revisiting that plan. You absolutely need to be revisiting that plan.
One thing I'm really proud about, I can add just really quickly, is one way we communicate that, he was talking about one time a year, is we do monthly, basically, ways that we communicate with our clients, quarterly calls. So we kind of put horse blinders. There's a lot of information out there, but what should you really be paying attention to?
Yeah, and again, we're running out of time today, folks. Sure. Can you remind everybody out there what you're offering one more time? Absolutely.
It's what we're offering is the Clearpath Retirement Guide. We've been talking about Roths. If you've never considered a Roth, or you've never considered a Roth conversion, let us do the analysis. Let us decide if you're a good candidate for reducing your taxes in your overall retirement plan. Call the number today, 844-333-6059. There are many more components to that Clearpath retirement plan. Roth conversion is a piece, but it's an important piece to that overall plan. Give us a call today.
Good stuff. And again, that's complimentary, but there's limited space available. You got to take action. Claim your spot. Make the change that you want in your life, because it is your retirement. It's the retirement of a lifetime, the one you've waited for. We want to thank you so much for being with us. Be well and enjoy your retirement.